in accordance with the MPC and the Township zoning ordinance relating to the Phoenixville Area School District and a barn which is located on its property. Under the rules of the MPC, there are strict record-keeping requirements in terms of applications and motions, and we did have some discussion about whether we could avoid all of this based upon what I know is coming, which is a request for postponement. But no one can second guess or predict what a board might do in advance, and therefore we found it necessary under the rules to conduct the hearing, open the hearing, and hear any request for a postponement or a continuance. So is there a party to these proceedings present this evening who wishes to address the board?
Good evening. My name is Robert Tucker from Sanibel and McAndrew. I'm here representing the Phoenixville Area School District, and I'm here to formally request a continuance.
How long did you say?
15 months.
Okay, now you realize that there will need, if the board is, why 15 months is appropriate, but there would be a need to re-advertise. Went over this with Mr. Belwar. If the proceedings will be, another week or two or a couple of months, we could avoid the advertising by setting a date. I don't think the board is in a position to pick a date in 15 months. I think if the board is amenable to this, then we would say we'd have to re-advertise so the public is aware of what's happening. Can you tell us why you feel it necessary to extend this out 15 months?
So defer to Dr. Fagley.
Thank you very much. We're asking for the 15-month continuance because part of the
Dr.
condition...
Fagley, can you go to the microphone for us? Thank you.
We're asking for the 15 months because we worked with the Historic Commission and we're at a Building and Grounds Committee meeting. We had been able to obtain, or had actually, insurance for the building, so the building is insured and with the fences up around right now, that the building is secure, reasonably secure, I guess is the word I should use, from students, and that the liability that we were concerned about is covered. Discussion that took place with some of the members from the Historic Commission who are here, and they can confirm this. We are going to be recommending to the full board that a joint task force consisting of Historic Commission members, however this Board of Supervisors wishes to appoint. The Phoenixville School Board will also appoint some members to look into how the barn may be reused and how, if the barn can have fundraising going forward. This is not a commitment from the school district to put funds into the barn. It is a commitment to look at it, give it about 15 months. We said a year at the meeting. We're extending it for 15 months to give us enough time to sit there, get the results back, and have time to come back and make an informed decision as a board.
How will this be triggered, this time period? Will we call you for a hearing date, or will you call us, and what's the mechanics of this extension?
Great question. In my calendar, I have put out need to call for a conditional use hearing. And
all right.
So I will give you folks a call in about 12 months to say, this is where we're at, and this is what we would like to hold a hearing or not hold a hearing.
Is there a chance it could be sooner? Let's say, and my wife says I'm too negative. I don't mean to be that way, but if this goes 3 months and it's not going anywhere, is there a chance that you would come in at that point and say, we want our hearing?
I think what would happen, it would actually be the reverse. If someone came up and said, we have $1.8 million we'd like to donate, we have a way to give you that money and do some use, we would probably come back and say,
Withdraw it. Right.
Withdraw. I think that the board will give the full period of time for the group to work and see what they can come up with. That is my belief. I can't speak for the board though, so as you know, that will be a decision that the board discusses tomorrow.
Dr. Fagley, I have to butt in here because 15 months is after your new school's opened.
Absolutely.
Okay? And if that's not, if your building isn't even started to be done, if that's the case, it's done, isn't that going to jeopardize the atmosphere or such of kids going around there, more vehicles coming in, construction and such of that building and such?
We have looked at that.
I mean, couldn't we shorten it to 12 months or 11 months to the idea that before school starts, we start working on this?
The thought was that we would try to
Okay.
give the full 12 months in order for the task force to look into it, and that we would be okay with a decision that would take place, and we know the students would be in the new building.
Sure.
There is a reasonable distance between the new building and the current barn
Okay.
that we believe we would be okay. We will need to sit there even next, even coming this spring, help make sure that we have our older students who are on the campus already keep walking around the building, because we are putting pathways in. So we're putting to make it easier to walk around this new campus. So
Okay.
those are issues that we're looking at. We do have to juggle. The Building and Grounds Committee, who was given this charge, was very
Sure.
comfortable with the concept, and so we're willing to go with that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, good questions.
Question, yeah. How are you considering addressing the stabilization question?
That is being looked at. We are still looking at the cost of the stabilization.
Okay.
We'll have to determine how that gets paid for, and if the board is willing to pay for that. I don't have an answer for that, but they did commission, and we have some general ideas on how it is. We still have to get some more firm data on costs.
Okay.
Barbara,
My thought is that,
Barbara, excuse me, we shouldn't be getting into the merits here, because no one's prepared for questions about the
no,
merits of
I
the
just
case.
wanted to make a
This is-
suggestion based on the timeline that is being proposed, that it isn't just either stabilization or cleanup. I think that that obviously needs to be addressed, but at the same time, the task force should think of the adaptive reuse in a coordinated fashion, so that once the cost of all of the above have been determined, the public understands what is going to happen at the end of the day. And I'd be happy to work with you.
Excuse-
Okay,
excuse-
that's not-
okay, let me be clear, the board is the judge in this case, so it's not, you should, I would prefer that we not identify our feelings about the case or how it's gonna go, because if it
Okay.
goes into a hearing, you are the judges, so there shouldn't be any discussion about helping out or anything else. I know you're new with this, but okay.
Okay.
that's good. All right, so there's a motion for a 15-month extension of the conditional use hearing that's been made by the applicant, the district. And I suppose that if we hear nothing at that time, we'll call them in to ask them, what the status of it is. It's not good for the township to have something hanging out there forever. So with that qualification, Fred, you can call for a vote.
Can I ask?
Well, okay, Fred makes a good point. What's the Historic Commission's position on this?
The Historic Commission is in agreement.
You're saying you don't even have to say anything.
Sandy Mollmeyer, right? Sandy Mollmeyer, Chair of the Historical Commission, and we are in agreement with Dr. Fegley to have a 15-month time period when a task force can work together to discuss the building and the options for it.
Thank you.
Okay, then we can do.
Call for a vote.
All right, then, you've heard the motion, but the motion is that we extend the continuance of with a conditional use of the hearing continuance with the Phoenixville Area School District for the demolition of this existing barn for 15 months. Do I hear a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks. By the way, colleagues, I hope you're reading, this is all the information on,
Oh, yeah.
this is all the information.
We've had that. I've had that.
Oh, good.
It's in terrible shape. Question is who's going to pay for it.
All right, I'm going to take a, 25 after, we'll start the regular
Actually, we
meeting.
can't till 7:30, is when it's advertised. The question is, do you want to go back in executive session for 10 minutes, so we don't waste the time, or would you rather stand around and chat? It's up to you.
We can go in executive session.
Let's go back in executive session. We have two things on the list.
Hang on, you have to leave, we're going to go back into executive session for 10 minutes. The Board of Supervisors for September, please, for pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag
of the
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. Glad to have you here. I think the greatest news we have for this meeting, and I'd like to open it, and that's, as far as I'm concerned, the greatest thing. Our township manager went in for a very serious operation, and she's doing well. She came out of the operation well. She's in rehab now, and we hope that she's, when she gets from that the township manager has been in a wheelchair for over a year now, and we're hoping that she'll be able to walk out of the rehab. So I would like to say thanks to Mary and pass on to Mary that we'll send our blessings and hope that she'll continue to get well.
That's a unanimous vote.
So, all right, I ask all the meeting attendees to sign in, please. The Township Board of Supervisors meeting is being videotaped. Is anyone else recording the meeting or such? Please make that fact known now. Okay, thank you. Comments by the audience members on any agenda item will follow. Completion of the board members' discussion of the topic. Please wait to be recognized by the chair, then advance to the microphone and clearly identify yourself. Statements to the board will be limited to 3 minutes, no exceptions. Shout-outs from the audience will not be acknowledged. Proposed agenda items must be submitted to the township manager no later than 12 noon on the Wednesday preceding the given board meeting. Late submissions will not be placed on the current agenda, but held for a subsequent meeting unless approved by the chairman of the board. Okay? All right, so we opened up, we've had the conditional use of the hearing. Board of Supervisor minutes.
A motion to approve?
Okay, has everybody read the minutes?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Believe it or not, I don't think I have any comments, which I know you're going to laugh at. The only comment I had, and I got the answer, I'll be able to give it to Mr. Mertz about Clothier Springs Road. So we've got some answers for you on that. So, other than that, okay. Acceptance of reports also.
I think we need to approve them.
We've got to approve, when we approve that, we consented the agenda, the board minutes, and the acceptance of the reports, and we had the motion to approve it and a second. Is there any more discussion?
No.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you, everybody. Moving on, any 2-minute reports?
Only that the Regional Planning Commission submitted the application. They submitted early August. It was due August 31st. And we got an email confirmation from the county representative saying that all of the parts that go into that are all in place. So stay tuned. It's a work in progress, but it's a positive work in progress.
Okay,
And no meeting, no regional planning was held this past month.
does anybody else have in fact, we didn't have a number of commission meetings this month, so.
Right.
Anybody else? I think the most important one was the Historic Commission.
I
that
was
we
going to
had.
mention that.
Okay, go ahead, mention it.
The main subject for discussion was the Meadowbrook barn. The former owners had put the barn and the farm itself are under the National Register of Historic Places. Not a National Historic Site, but on the National Register. As such, the barn has an historic value. And a lot of discussion went into the fact that there are problems with the barn. It is not structurally sound at this time. There is stuff inside that needs to be cleaned up. On the other hand, it is quite possible that an adaptive reuse could be found for that. And so the school district, as a result of submitting an application for demolition of the barn, has now sought a continuance, and a task force is going to be formed part of the delay of the meeting here was to have that hearing. So 15 months to come up with not just what the costs are and what the work involved is to make the barn safe and sound, but also for the sake of our taxpayers, okay, it's cleaned up and it's structurally sound, what's the adaptive reuse going to be? So we got 15 months to find the answer.
I mean, if I could just add to that, meanwhile, the school district has done two things that we were sort of not aware of, but now we are, which is one, they have an insurance policy which covers the barn for liability. The second is they have a protective fencing that they have either installed or they're going to install very shortly, so that it doesn't become a invitation for youngsters to get themselves into trouble. So.
Right. And one footnote, I would like to thank John Gregory and our new supervisor, Susan Barrett, for your help in making sure that the school district could gain insurance coverage, and also in terms of you're even finding a qualified contractor. Thank you, Susan.
I would like to thank John, too. Just a
And
minute,
I
please.
did, yeah, I thanked John, he got the insurance quotes.
It wasn't just the insurance. John did quite an extensive study for grounds of the idea of restoring the building, and it had a good context to it and such like that. And it's something that we will be working with in the school. Our Board of Supervisors will be looking at in the task force also, and I'll be contacting you or that on such. Okay, let's go, oh, I'm sorry, Pete, go ahead, I'm sorry, Pete.
Hi, Peter Mercury,
Sure.
Pickering Glen. I don't know if you know this or not. Was this supposed to be a public meeting for the barn? It was? Do you know that up until John just looked at it, it says on the website, 7:30 meeting. What does that do to the decision that was made here tonight? Because I wanted to be here, and maybe a lot of other people could have come later, but you started at 7 o'clock, and it's posted on your website 7:30.
Well, I'll answer that, Pete. I'm not aware of the posting of what's on the website, but under the MPC, which is the law that governs these matters, the advertising was done at the last hearing. In other words, there's no need to repost or re-advertise. At the last hearing, we had a court reporter present, and we announced the next date and the time. And
You
that
sure?
satisfies the legal requirement.
You
Sorry,
mentioned
couldn't
the
make
time,
it.
7 o'clock in that?
I presume we did. I don't have the
Okay.
record, but,
All right.
you know, we had a court reporter there for that reason, and the purpose was to establish the next date and time, which is
Yeah,
all
but
that's
that wasn't
required
on-
under the MPC.
Okay, all right, well, I'll go back and check, make sure, because I saw 7:30 on the website, and I don't know, shouldn't somebody have changed it if it was made 7 o'clock?
We try to be accurate, you know. do
But
the
you
best
gotta
we can.
understand, John, Pete, we make mistakes too, and with Mary being out and such, we might have been remiss, and instead of the 7 o'clock, we put 7:30. But hope you will agree with that. Okay, let's go to our treasurer, the payment of bills.
One thing I'd like to add to that, for Pete's benefit and the audience, is essentially this was no more than a postponement decision on the demolition of the barn. In other words, instead of taking action immediately to have a contest with the school district, they proposed a working process, if you will, to try to
Save it
have
if
a
we
good
can.
faith effort to save the barn, okay?
Can I just make one comment?
Here we go.
Why didn't they start this early on? I mean, I went to the meeting with the school district and asked if they had known about this building, and they said yes, right from the beginning. Why did they come out and say it was a
Pete,
a
I
old
can't
building?
answer your main question, but I can answer
Okay.
part of the question as far as the township's concerned. As far as the township's concerned, it's been discussed the last
Excuse me.
2 months.
Excuse me. The subject of the barn, Pete, is part of a conditional use hearing application, which is before the board.
I
The
understand.
board is the judge in the case.
No, I
So
understand.
they're not permitted now to get into a freewheeling discussion of what may be involved in the application. They can't do it.
I wasn't even gonna
It's
discuss
not
that.
proper to do it. So, come to the hearing. If there's no hearing, okay.
I would have been here at 7, Bill.
Well, no,
I apologize.
I meant the next hearing, okay? And-
I was here last month,
All right, but nothing
and I don't remember
substantive.
7 o'clock.
Well, all right, nothing substantive has happened. There's been no evidence, no testimony. There have been 2 requests for postponement. That's all that's happened.
I know, but why are we prolonging this? I heard the story at the
Well, see,
school
they
district.
can't get into it. They're not allowed to, because
Okay.
it's like
All right.
asking the judge, what are you gonna do?
I
You can't.
apologize.
Okay.
All right.
Just to clarify, though, just to let him know, we weren't the ones who requested the continuance, the school district did. So if you want an answer to that, you'll have to ask them.
No, I understand, but you know as well as I do, this thing started a year and a half ago, and why is it coming up now? Why didn't it come up when we were fighting for?
You'll have to ask the school district. They're the ones that applied for the
I asked the
conditional
Historical
use.
Commission. It's an old building. It should have been demolished, right from the beginning.
All right, can you continue on our meeting of treasurer, please?
Okay, our treasurer's report, I hope everyone had a chance to review it. Our general fund balance, at the end of August 31st of 2016, our balance is just over $4 million.
Great.
I hope everyone had a chance to look at all of our expenditures. And in our general fund, I hope you'll notice that we're at 52% of our budget, which is fantastic because we are more than 50% through our year. So we are really doing well. One of the comments that I wanted to make was that Nick had done all of our repaving projects. Everything is finished, all the
Wow.
bills have come in and under budget.
That's
So,
awesome.
that was just, I know he's not here, but I'd like to pat him on the back and thank him for his hard work. So I think that that's something that everyone here should be aware of. And I did review all of the bills this afternoon, and everything is in order and ready to be paid.
Okay.
Any more discussion?
Yeah, just a comment on Nick's repaving. The good news, I think, hopefully for the Cleona Avenue folks, is they just got their road paved.
Yep.
As some of of us know, and the audience also, it's, the Cleona Avenue folks have been
That's
involved in some discussions about various topics, and speeding is one of them, and so hopefully they're happier now that they've got a paved road.
Do I hear a motion to accept the,
So move.
second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I don't like seconding my own report,
So
though.
moved. All right, I have a few announcements to make. In the mo-
One, two.
One of the most important things, of course, everybody, school's open, okay? So let's drive carefully. Be careful when you're driving with the kids and everything, very important with us. Let's watch our speed limits and where we are. Remember to stop for school buses. The lights are flashing, there's no passing, remember that. So let's be careful with that. The hazardous waste event will be held on Saturday, September 10th. September 10th, a hazardous waste, 9 to 3 at the Oxford School Administration Building. No electronics will be accepted. Whew, that's a long ways away, Oxford. Join the Schuylkill Township Police Department on Thursday, September 15th for a presentation and discussion on issues facing our community at 7:30 at the Phoenixville Country Club. Do you want to say anything more about that?
No, I think it's very useful and productive and encourage our residents to attend. It's a very special meeting and the first one where our police officers have given a presentation like this.
And I think it'll be very informative, folks.
I agree.
So,
Just a comment, when I came into the office this afternoon, Madeline did say that a number of people have responded saying that they're very interested in coming to this, and I think you said almost 100 people have said that they're going
Wow.
to attend.
Wow.
Maybe I'll tell her to set up more chairs than, usually we have 50 chairs total. Should I have her set up more?
the Valley Forge Fire Company is going to have their annual spaghetti dinner fundraiser on Sunday, September 18th. Sunday, September 18th, 4 to 7 at the main station on Valley Park Road. That's volunteer Fire Company Annual Spaghetti Dinner Fundraiser, September the 18th.
Are you cooking, Jason? Are you cooking?
Don't worry, Ed, they're good. I put the fires, I think,
Joined Senator Dinniman on September 24th, not the 28th, at the Medical Honor Grove to honor our veterans. The program will start at 10 a.m. In fact, I'm going to be one of the speakers and such at it also. Our police are going to be directing traffic and such like that, too. Save dates, Monday, October 10th, I'll say more about it, but the Volunteer Fire Company will have open house from 6 to 8 on Monday, October 10th. And Thursday, October 27th, the township-sponsored seminar on reverse mortgages presented by the Pennsylvania Department of Banking and Securities, 7 p.m. at the Schuylkill Township Hall. Okay? Anybody have any other announcements?
I do for the
Sure.
Schuylkill River Heritage Center. The Schuylkill River used to be very filthy and full of coal dust, so it was very slimy and awful. After the early 1950s, it was cleaned up, and now it's sublime. And on September 13th, that Tuesday before the police presentation at the Country Club, the Heritage Center is sponsoring a presentation given by Adam Levine, who is an historian with the Philadelphia Water Department, and the flyers there for anyone to have. The admission is free, no registration is required, and Pete, it's at 7:30 p.m. I guarantee it'll start on time. But there's a reason that a lot of breweries got established along the Schuylkill River, and that's because the water was so filthy, the people couldn't drink the water. And now it's one of 11 nationally certified American heritage rivers, so it should be an interesting presentation. Thank you, Fred.
One more, Fred. This is going back into August, but one of the things that a lot of folks have been waiting for in Valley Forge Park is a walking connection from the southern part of the park to the northern part of the park in the Bettswood area, where there used to be the old Bettswood Bridge. Well, that's now complete. It's now called the Sullivan's Bridge. It's about 1,000 feet long, spanning the Schuylkill River. It's able to not only have people walk on it, bicycles, and even emergency vehicle traffic as needed. So this is a big thing for the park. You now have a direct connection between virtually the headquarters area and the Bettswood Bridge area, which is a good recreational boost to the area and particularly to Valley Forge Park.
And the Schuylkill River Trail.
Right. Schuylkill River Trail is right next to Bettswood, as we know.
Any more announcements?
I'm good.
We'll move on to old business legal matters. Bill?
Yes, Fred, I'm pleased to announce the Third Circuit Court of Appeals affirmed the federal court's decision in the Polo case, so it looks pretty good that there won't be a 180-foot to 190-foot tower on Valley Forge Mountain. There was a JP case handled by Code Enforcement Officer Rich O'Brien involving Cowler, and he was successful there as well. And the Meehan Barn decision came in, the opinion came in consistent with the decision, and that was favorable as well. There may be future citations or court action depending on further instruction. Thank you.
I have a postscript. I would like to thank Bill Brennan, who did a superb job. And many of you may not be familiar with the case that was mentioned, but the DePolo Tower was proposed by the owner of a property living on Horseshoe Trail to put up a 188-foot tower. And we won't go into the details, but Tredyffrin, half the Horseshoe Trail is Schuylkill and half of it's Tredyffrin. If you blink, you're not sure which township you're in. It was our township that took the lead, and Bill's superb, and I underscore that because it was a very difficult, tortuous process to get Tredyffrin to join forces to make sure that the 188-foot tower did not go through.
Thank you, Bob.
I really, not only on behalf of those who live in Valley Forge, but for all of us in the township. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. That's all I have, Fred, thanks.
Shall we, any other old business, folks? Okay. Moving on to new business. A motion to accept conservation easement proposal for parcel C. I think that's going to be discussed in executive session.
I think so. It's a property acquisition. There will be a vote that will be presumed after the discussion, but that'll be executive session now. The vote will be public.
Okay. Everybody understand that?
Just to clarify for everybody, we're talking about a conservation easement proposal, not a conservation easement. Okay, this is a proposal to create a conservation easement. So,
There's a lot to discuss, Jim. Motion to approve advertising for equipment rental and snow removal bids for 2016, 2017.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? That's our normal thing that we do every
Yeah,
year, but.
I know that there was some discussion where Nick, I think, changed the wording to make something right. Has he looked through this and he's approved it? Then I'm fine with it.
No, I think that's right.
I will have him run through it one last time before it goes out to
Okay.
paper.
Okay.
Do I hear a motion to accept that?
yeah,
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Motion to appoint a board member as the emergency declaration officer. I would like to do that because I've had 5 years in FEMA, and I have quite a bit of experience in the.
I'll make the
In the
motion to
famous,
appoint you.
And I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Thank you very much. All in favor? Yes, I think we are.
So moved.
Thank you, Fred.
Yeah,
He's getting up early.
Yeah, it's true. Motion to appoint a board member as the liaison of the Valley Forge Sewer Authority Board. Do I hear,
I'll make that motion.
what,
Board.
but who, we got to name
We
somebody.
have to name someone? I
Yes.
thought
No,
so-
Kevin was serving
so
on there.
we can't discuss it first?
Sure, of course
I
we
have-
can.
I have some questions that I think need to be answered before somebody will say that they're willing to do it.
Okay, to give you a little background on it, when I first came aboard as a Board of Supervisors, I was appointed. I wasn't asked, I was appointed, and then Kevin took over after that, and
He
now
lives
Kevin's
next
gone. So I don't know who's going to take it over now.
And
Well, I guess my
They only
questions-
meet once a month, folks.
Okay, that was my questions
No,
were,
they don't meet once a month.
That's right.
when do they meet? How often do they meet? What,
Here, I have that
Once a
in
month,
here.
and it's not that long a meeting, so.
I think it's more a question of having a face representing the township at that meeting.
yeah.
This is not the board for the Valley
No.
Forge Sewer Authority. This is the joint board, and that's where a representative from every one of the participating municipalities
Right.
get together to discuss issues. There are no set meeting dates. They are scheduled according to everyone's availability and need. They discuss things like the plant expansion project, pipelines, new developments, and associated costs.
It's not that.
Does anybody know how often they met, like, say, last year or the year before?
2 to 3 times a year.
2 or 3 times a year.
Okay,
They usually
okay.
meet.
all right.
Do you volunteer for it?
I'm happy to do it as well, so whatever works best for the board.
Go right ahead.
If I could just chime in here, I would accept this.
I would accept Susan's as
offer.
well.
I hear the nomination is Susan to be the Valley Forge Sewer Authority. Do I hear a second to that?
I'll second
I
it.
would-
Just let me make a comment here, though. One of the things that some of our residents are concerned about, and even more so, some of our businesses are concerned about, is the closure of Route 252 for sewer authority purposes, okay, for that pipe. I'd love to have some input on that process from the township, so as to get them maybe to beat the December deadline that they're looking at right now.
Yeah, it's been delayed twice already. It was supposed to have been open in July. and then before that in April.
Yeah, so that's my comment.
Our representative, legislator, Mr. Kemp is, Honorable Mr. Kemp is following it pretty closely.
He has
Okay.
been. I give him credit for that.
So, all right, so we've had the nomination and we've had the motion and second, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Susan. Motion to approve the deer archery hunting by Whitetail Associates solely within the boundaries of Pickering Preserve on specific dates from September through January during bow hunting season until the rules and regulations of Schuylkill Township and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Game Commission. I would nominate Jim for that since he's.
I'll make the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to actually voice my opposition to this motion. I think that the two properties were purchased by the board, by the township, for use by open space. And I'm concerned that we're now allowing hunting on an area where we told our residents they can hike and walk their dogs. So I think this is really opening us up to the liability, because we've said this is open space our residents can use, and now we're saying there's gonna be hunting on it. So I hope there's something being done to warn people of that.
All right, well, just to
Good
counter,
point.
just to counter that, as of about, this goes back now in time, but as of roughly about 10 years ago, the statistic in Pennsylvania was that there has never, ever been an accident with an archer and a non-hunter.
But nationwide, there have been many.
This is Pennsylvania, okay, I'm talking about. All right, that's number one. Number two, Tredyffrin Township has, for maybe the last 15 years now, approved an archery hunting club in their parks, okay? And you can imagine they're looking at something like this very, very closely. They looked at the statistics, they looked at the liability coverage by the bow hunting club, which Whitetail Associates has.
And do you know what the insurance limits are? Do you know what their insurance limits are? I mean, if a child is killed by a bow hunter, I mean, that could be millions of dollars.
Yeah, well.
And we've told our residents we're raising this money for open space that they can use for hiking, walking their dogs. I mean, I think we're gonna need to post signs, because we're now gonna need to tell people there's hunting in there.
Jim?
Well, anyway, so Tredyffrin has had this going for, 15 years roughly, at least. And we have had this program particularly in the Pickering Preserve going for almost that same length of time. And more recently, we added our Valley Park property to this. And here we have a couple of our residents that are almost right, well, at least one of them is right across the street practically, that's the next motion, to basically give them permission to hunt. And they have been doing so, or at least one of them has been doing so for the last 3 years, I believe.
Yeah, but
at
Jim,
least.
I think what Susan's saying, between this motion and the next motion also for deer archery hunting, I would suggest that we get a letter or a bulletin note from the township itself to the board and send it out to our residents so they're aware of what's going on and how that's stipulated, and that way each person would understand what's going on.
No
You know,
problem.
Mr.
No
Chairman, I'm
problem.
gonna have to still voice my objection, only because I feel like unless you have signs every 10 feet telling people that they're now entering an area where there's deer hunting, I mean, hunters, do a great thing for us in taking care of our deer population, but if you inadvertently walk into that area and you're walking with your child or your dog and
I
you
agree.
realize you have hunters looking for deer, I mean, I just think we're opening ourselves up to liability.
I agree.
Can we approve the motion with the condition that signage is installed?
By whom?
Huh?
By whom?
That'd be an
Well,
additional.
by the township, I mean,
By the
it's township
township.
property.
All right, well, there needs to be some detail on what the sign should say and all that, but they have been required to have insurance, I believe.
Right, right, right.
And I believe they may also, I'm not sure of this, they may also be covered under our liability insurance, although I'm not certain of that. But to answer what I think your question is, there need to be some detail about number of signs, where they go, and things of that nature, which I'm not sure you're ready to do tonight, but I'll leave it. I don't vote, I just make recommendations.
Right. Well, I think you raise a valid point. On the other hand, at the time that George Washington and the soldiers were in Valley Forge, there were 80 deer. Now there are 800. They are not an endangered species. And,
Well, I'm not worried about the deer, though, I'm worried about, we've said to our.
and I think what we need to do is have the appropriate signage and have these qualified people do what they have to do.
Hang on, folks, hang on, folks. We're getting into another subject now. What I think we need to do is add it to...
Table this, or-
No, I didn't say. You let me finish. I don't want to table it. I think it should be further discussion after we do the motion for the 2 deer things, of who's going to do it. Then we should have a discussion on, also a new business, about the deer signage and make a separate motion for that,
Sounds good.
okay? Let's don't mix apples and oranges, folks.
Well, maybe reverse that, have the deer signage motion first,
Okay, fine.
okay?
All right, does anybody want to make a motion about deer signage and such like that? And remember the cost and the putting it up and such like that. Make sure we know and understand what it's going to entail when we make that motion and we agree with it. I happen to agree with it because it would inform our citizens of where we're coming from and the residences where they live. I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
So
I'd like
I
to-
would make that motion, that we,
I was going to make a specific motion saying that appropriate signage in specific strategic locations be installed in both Pickering Preserve and Valley Park to alert visitors that deer hunting is taking place there, in both of those places.
By the township, right?
yes.
By deer hunters authorized by the township.
Do I hear a second to that motion?
Yes, second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All right,
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Is this a directive to install that signage, or do you want to know how much it is first?
I think at this point, we're not looking for anything terribly fancy, okay?
Right.
Because the start of the hunting season is
Is
right
it-
around the corner.
It's
Yeah.
in
Okay.
about.
Given Martha's report, I think we'll be okay.
Okay.
do you want to put a not to exceed figure?
I don't really think it's necessary.
I don't either.
We
so-
can use our.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure that all our bases are covered, folks. All right, now, let's go back to the original motion before we get on to all this. Jim has been nominated, for the assignment for the first motion, the Deer Hunting Whitehall Association, and I had a motion made. I made the motion, and it was seconded. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, Jim, you have that. Now, the next motion is to approve deer archery hunting by Mr. Michael Bauer and Mr. Josh Johnson, residents by the township solely within the boundaries of Valley Park. Park on specific dates, okay, not weekends, on specific dates, only from township and of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Game Commission. That again, somehow that's got to be put out to our citizens of what dates we're talking about, because if it's not, they're going to think it's all the time. And our Game Commission only has certain dates of that. That should be in that letter that goes out to everybody.
Right.
So is that where the cemetery is?
Yes.
Sure.
So I guess I don't understand, like, why have we purchased land with a historic cemetery that we want people to come visit and use and enjoy, and now we're gonna limit that ability by having hunters come onto the property? I mean, I guess I feel like we petitioned to have open space because we wanted people to enjoy that, and now we're limiting it to a certain group of people and not allowing people to come. I mean, I certainly can't recommend that people go to that cemetery and enjoy it if there are hunters in the area, because certainly they could get injured. So I guess I'm not sure, what is our thought in terms of why we're doing that instead of facilitating open space use?
Good point.
Oh, go ahead.
We are, again, this goes back in time for, I don't know, 10 years or so before we had this plan for the walking paths and everything, through the Valley Park, which are not there yet and probably won't be there for another 2 years or so. Certainly not this season. Once again, some of the parks over in Tradition Townships, I'm not sure exactly which ones, but I think some of them do have these walking paths where, which are different, is allowed this hunting to go on. Now, we have control on where and when they do this. In other words, we could say, now you can only hunt in the back part of the property or in the middle of the property, and you only do this on Saturday afternoon, or, you know, whatever, we can be specific on this and exert some control on the hunters. But I think you have to realize that certainly the Whitetail Associates group, and I think also these other two individuals are very responsible and very accurate, okay? There's never been an incident in Schuylkill Township since 1993, now 23 years that they've been hunting here. There's never been an incident involving any non-hunter being hurt, injured, you know, encountered, nothing like that. So
I think your point's well taken in terms of the cemetery is adjunctive, and there is no trail to the cemetery at this time. Our engineer, John Sartor, has been working now. We have a plan for Valley Park. We know where there'll be a paved trail, where there will be, because of environmental factors, a soft version of the trail going through. Environmental and historic interpretive signage are planned. So I think that for this year, it's okay. But I think your point is very well taken. We're so used to it kind of being there and no one going there that it hasn't been thought out in the way that you brought to the table. So I think once we have the trail and the interpretive signage and encouraging groups to go there, then especially Pickering Preserve, not necessarily, but especially with Valley Park, because of its centralized location, I think we need to rethink it once we have all of the interpretive, historic, and environmental signage in place.
Okay, well, I think we should just note my objection to the motion, my dissent.
I think you raised a really good point.
Telling people we're using these properties for a different purpose, but if there's a disagreement, I certainly can just, you know, pose the motion, and I understand there's difference of opinion.
yeah, well, I respect your opinion, but I have to say that in this particular case, in terms of Valley Park and Whitetail Associates, their track record, their safety track record has been exemplary. And once again, the state statistics don't point to any incidents, physical incidents from an archery perspective, an archer injuring a non-archer. So it's another way of stating it is archers are trained to look for deer. They're not looking for people. They're looking for deer, and deer have a very specific configuration. Right? And that, by the way, and not just people, but also dogs and you know, maybe, you know, a possible close resemblance. They know what they're shooting at. Believe me, they know what they're shooting at. That's number one. By the way, just one other thing on the safety. They're not shooting from the ground. They're shooting from tree stands, which means that the arrow does not go like that a ways. It goes from about 15, 20 feet down on an angle into the deer. So if they miss, the likelihood is that the arrow is just going to basically dig the dirt. So again, that's another safety precaution that this Whitetail Associates Club uses, and also these other two individuals do also.
Okay.
Thank
Just
you
to
for
be clear, though,
educating us, Jim.
I think though my point is just a
Never
little
knew
different,
that.
just to be clear. I feel like we're foreclosing an area that we've paid for the majority of our population. It allows, you know, whitetail deer and the two people across the street to use it. And I feel like this should be a resource for our whole township, not a discrete population.
But I think that the state that Valley Park is in right now, you can't use it. You
Really?
can't get there.
We
You can't
had-
park there, you can't do anything in it right now. So,
Well, how do the hunters get there? I mean, they must be able to get there.
Well, yeah,
he walks across the street.
Well,
There's a
not-
little gravel parking lot for maybe one or two vehicles that have used it to help with the trolley station building, for example.
Okay, is
Yeah,
there any
it's
more
fine. I mean,
discussion?
I dissent, but it's totally fine. I understand we all have to vote our consciences.
It's not yet ready for prime time,
Right.
Yeah,
but I'm glad to know the hunters go from the tree.
okay. Well,
And-
have we made a motion and?
Yes, motion's been made.
Yes.
Yeah.
Second?
No, not second yet.
Oh, well, you made it.
I
I'll
made the
second
motion.
it. Okay, one other comment if I could before we vote.
Watch your finger.
Sorry. One other comment, which is, I'm forgetting what I was gonna say.
Well, you-
We just need to be, I know what it was. I will take care of the signage.
Okay,
I'll take care of the signage.
all right. Motion's been made, it's second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Okay.
All right, a motion to approve the 2017 financial requirement and minimum municipal obligation for the police and the non-uniform pension plans.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Motion to accept the bid for the, municipal bid for the 2004 F-550 dump truck.
I so move. Bobby Gerhart.
Okay.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that the.
We need a second first.
Yeah.
I'll second. Go ahead.
I'll-
I'll second it.
Okay. Just, we got a whole range of bids that's online for this truck. And the low one was about 6,000 and the high one is what, 15,000? So we want to get the most money, so we're getting the high bid here. But it goes on for 2 pages in terms
Right.
of back and forth
A
bids.
lot of people bid on this.
Yeah, so,
But I think the good thing here is that we were expecting to get 6,000 and we got 15,000 for it. I think that's the
Interesting.
best news,
yeah.
Well, it is a 2004, so.
yes. But like I said, we were expecting to get 6 and we got 15. We're
Uh-huh.
getting 15. Yeah,
Okay,
it's
we've had the
great.
motion, it's been made, and any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Discussion consideration of the Open Space Commission recommendation for a resolution which would encourage developers presenting land development plans to the township which are inclusive, remember that, inclusive of parcels identified as open space on the township open space map, to present their plans to the Open Space Commission for review and comment prior to appearing before the Board of Supervisors.
Right.
Do we have any discussion on this?
I think I'd like to, actually, I discussed this when visiting Mary on Sunday. And she's in, while she may not be able to walk just yet, she's in great mental state. We had a good discussion. With all due respect, Bob, I think that we have to respect our planning commission, seeing something and making sure that our open space commission, our historic commission, and our environmental advisory council all have equal footing. You may have a distinctive line across a property, identifying something as a valuable piece of open space. But if a developer wants to put in a building in a particular area or a set of buildings, I think negotiations can be said, okay, you want to put something that's 25,000 square feet here, can we move it here because this impedes? There's room, we cannot tie a developer's hands, and our township needs development in certain specific locations along public areas. We cannot and should not tie a developer's hands from the outset. I think we need to let the process evolve and work with your Open Space Commission, our Historic Commission, as well as the EAC, to develop consensus to say, okay, you can develop the property, but we need to have this movement to conserve X amount of acreage of open space. I think this is too harsh of a beginning point for any developer. You can't say you cannot and will not develop X number of acres because you're crossing a line.
I think there's a misunderstanding here, Barbara. We do not have any legal authority.
No, we don't.
The map is not legal authority to.
Like an ordinance.
To prevent any development. It's only a desired goal, okay, if you will, in terms of the township's desire to protect and preserve open space. And the problem here is that has been discussed in the Open Space Commission and has resulted in this discussion item, is that the Planning Commission is the primary stop for a developer coming in, making a proposal, as we well know, and typically the first step is a sketch plan. The Historical Commission is close on its heels if historical properties are involved. If they're not involved, it's basically, the Historical Commission has a map that's sort of equivalent to the open space map in that it designates certain properties and buildings as structures as being historic. So there right now is there's an analogy there between those two, the Open Space Commission and the Historical Commission. The Environmental Advisory Council gets right in there for most proposals for development because for no other reason, there's being earth moved around or trees being cut down or there's a stream going through the property or whatever, or steep slopes or whatever. And the engineer, our engineer, calls attention to some of these facets of the proposal, and typically the next stop for a developer is in front of the EAC, more likely than not. So this is basically, I think, the opportunity to put the Open Space Commission at the same level, if you will, as the other committees and commissions, expressing their desire for a certain amount of open space preservation, and maybe educating, hopefully, the developer or the landowner as to the value of the property. Okay, I think probably that's the biggest thing that they can do is education, both not only for the developer but for the public, because it would be a public meeting. So I think, and we're not saying, by the way, that it's every developer's proposal for development necessitates them coming before the Open Space Commission. It's the proposal here is for only those properties that are on the open space map. So there's a lot of properties that obviously that are not on that map.
Right. And the map has not been updated in how long?
It needs updating.
Mr. Mark?
All right. Well, let me talk about the open space map, okay? That map was created back in 2008, 2009. It was approved by the Planning Commission, by the Open Space Commission, and by the Board of Supervisors, all right? So all of these bodies recognized that map as an official component of the township's open space plan, all right? And on that map are properties that are deemed very desirable for open space preservation. So we felt it appropriate that we respect the wishes of the voters who approved the referendum to preserve open space and execute on our open space plan. Now, and we felt, as Jim mentioned, if there's a building, a historic building on a property that a developer wants to develop, it's appropriate that the Historic Commission have a chance at bat and, discuss the development and the issues surrounding that building, and then, as an advisory group, make a recommendation to the board. If there's a property, as Jim mentioned, that has environmental sensitivities, the process currently is for that developer developing a property that has environmental components to it to make a presentation before the EAC. And we think it's very logical and very appropriate for the Open Space Commission to play a role in a manner not unlike the Historic Commission or the EAC. And we think doing this would also send a message that's reflective of the goals of the township, that open space is important. So, that's.
Mr. Mock, a question. Do you have for the Open Space Committee certain parameters that you go by now that are written up, statutes or such that you have that the rest of your commission looks forward to the open space?
Well,
Because
what we did,
if that's the case, are you saying you want the discussion information that was put in the agenda to be part of that, or to be developed as part of what you should be doing?
Well, I'm not totally certain I understand your question, but as regards the criteria for defining a property as an open space candidate, we went through, put quite a bit of effort in creating a rank order system to rank properties so that we had an objective way of identifying properties that should be open space candidates. Excuse me. And that was approved by the Open Space Commission. I don't know whether it was approved by the Planning Commission, but it was approved by the Board of Supervisors. I believe that was approved probably in like 2008, right around there. And on several other occasions, I've publicly walked through that rank order system so that the public understands, how we go about identifying a open space candidate. So that I can answer. I'm not sure. We do have a procedure that was also approved by the board, okay, where it identifies the steps that must be adhered to in any open space transaction, from the point that we have our outreach with an open space candidate, to the point that we seek approval for a conditioned offer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I think, I don't know about the rest of the board, but I would like to see a copy of the criteria and such, and
Oh, sure.
see where you're coming from, to
Sure.
see what your judgments are.
It
so-
was published in one of our newsletters.
Well,
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
you
Bill has
ready?
something he wants to tell us?
Bill has, yeah.
May I?
Sure.
Okay.
We've talked about this. I am a little bit concerned about the development situation where a property is brought in by an equitable owner, that is, somebody who has a contract to purchase a piece of property subject to zoning approval. We have a process where every equitable owner has his project taken to the Open Space Commission. I'm afraid there's room for mischief there, because there will possibly be an effort to purchase that property, not from the equitable owner who doesn't have legal title, but from the legal owner. And you could be facing claims in each case, unlikely in each case, but for interference with contractual relations, because the equitable owner is not going to be happy with the township trying to buy out a property that that the equitable owner has
For development.
development rights for. So, I mean, I think that, I respect the request that, open space be kept on an even keel with everyone else. I think the office procedures could be that, Bob or someone could be notified informally if a plan comes in that involves, a open space target, we'll call it. There could be a memo to staff, whoever receives the plans, check it off. If it is an open space, contact Bob and see whether it's a legal owner or an equitable owner. If it's a legal owner with his own property, I don't see as much of a problem. But if it's an equitable owner, you're looking for trouble. So, so I would not recommend it generally. The second thing, I would oppose a resolution to encourage people to do things. I mean, we have laws that require things, whenever people are encouraged, you're inviting a bad outcome.
Right.
So I wouldn't want to put such a resolution in writing for those reasons. I think the solution would be an office procedure to contact Bob or whoever the chairman might be with the identity of a development. A decision could be made whether it should go to the open space based upon ownership or other factors. That's my comment.
Thank you, Bill, and that you voiced the concerns that I had as well. In each given instance, and as Jim pointed out, whether it's the EAC or the Historic Commission or the Planning Commission, there's certain ordinances that govern the procedures in terms of their presentation. This is too arbitrary, too soon, too early. And I say this, saving open space in Schuylkill Township, I worked to get that referendum passed, and for 22 years, reinventing Phoenixville so we'd have open space in Schuylkill. At the same time, there should be a balance between someone having a good idea for development and being able to save a certain amount of precious acreage as well, and to develop trails in our open space also, which we can do as a township.
Okay,
Bob,
we,
can I just ask, Bob, do you think that's gonna help you? Because I think that Jim makes a good point, which is that we recognize we want you to have the ability to talk to developers about, educate them about the benefits of open space.
Correct.
Or do you feel like that Bill's solution's gonna help you at least have notice that it's happening so you can,
Well,
as Jim says, kind of
I-
step in and.
Yeah, I think really our first priority is that we're engaged in the process as early as possible. And, I'm very sensitive to issues regarding tortious interference between, a contract, So we don't want to obviously create a problem like that. We haven't. What I like Bill's idea insofar as if there is a equitable owner, that we be invited to the meeting and just observe the whatever plan or ideas they have in their initial discussions with the landowner. And I also like the idea where the landowner it doesn't have a contract with the developer, having them appear before the Open Space Commission. And in a situation like that, we could discuss open space options very freely to the landowner. So,
Okay,
yeah, if
everybody-
that's possible,
all right.
that would be a nice compromise to this approach.
Yeah, the notification, I think, is the key.
That's right.
We just
I
need to
do
get
too.
engaged before the door to open, the doorway
Yeah,
to
I
open
think it should
space is
follow
slammed
the
shut.
planning commission.
Okay, so I think we ought to tie this up. We've had the discussion, I think, as chairman of your commission, I'd like you to take back the suggestions and what's been said here to your Open Space Commission and see if you have any other comments or such and bring them back to us so we know what's going on, okay? Please.
Yeah, I think what Bill has said is right. One of the reasons why we refer to parcels by letters is so that no one can come in and interfere with what you're working on. But basically what you're asking to do is to interfere with what somebody else is already working on.
Exactly.
The way this is worded. And I think if we can reword it so that it's not.
Doesn't put us in legal jeopardy.
I'm not even sure rewording it is right. I think what Bill said is coming up with a process.
It's an office procedure.
Yeah.
This is a
Is
line
the
on
best
a
way to
map.
do it, yeah.
It's not an ordinance.
Well,
That's the big
this is
deal.
just a discussion item, folks.
Yeah.
It's not for resolution. All we're making is suggestions for him to
Yeah.
back to his commission,
Exactly.
okay?
I think that's the better way to do it.
And then if the commission comes back to us and say they want more criteria or such like it, then it's up to us to make some decisions after that, folks, okay? All right, move forward. There's nothing for resolution and ordinances tonight. There's no agenda item. Subdivision and land development, there's no agenda items. Is there any additional business? None? Okay. I would open it up to public participation now, please.
Good evening, John Moran, Schuylkill Township, Meadowbrook Lane. I have two items tonight. In the last building and grounds meeting at the school board last week, or this past week, the township is requesting or requiring that the school district make 2 large change orders. And I know the township engineer is not here tonight, but one of the things the township is requiring to do is to have a change in hardware for the school. According to what we've been told at the school board meeting, that the hardware that they were going to originally install was not adaptable for the children's hands to open the doors up. Now,
Wow.
well, okay. So I'm trying to get some background because when I go to the next school board meeting, I'm going to find out why either the township is requiring something different than what the engineers or whoever designed this school. Secondly, there has to be a new water line put in for, I believe, the maintenance building to the tune of about $50,000. So we're now almost 2 years, maybe 3 years into the design stage. Why all of a sudden is the school now having to pay out another close to $84,000 in 2 change orders? And that's made due to the township engineer, I believe. So I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but this came up at the B&G meeting, and I'll be bringing this up to the school board. Who's responsible for $84,000 of additional cost when we're 3 years into this project almost? Secondly, at the last meeting, I did mention that with the candidates for this township supervisor position, that the township handbook from Pennsylvania states any interviews of the candidates or discussion of the qualifications of the applicants must take place in the public meeting. So my question is again, Mr. Brennan, they do reference a sunshine law, section 708. So why did the township members here feel that they should not abide by the township handbook?
The handbook is incorrect. I did a memo on this, circulated it, and the manner in which the interviews were conducted was, in my opinion, perfectly lawful.
Can I have a copy of that email or letter, please?
No, that's legal advice to my board. We don't give that in public.
So the
It's our
handbook,
opinion. If you don't like it, then, you can take whatever action you think is appropriate.
so the handbook's incorrect,
In my opinion, yes.
in your opinion.
That's right.
So I should go to the Pennsylvania
You
State,
can do whatever you want.
I can do whatever I want, right?
Right.
So the township decided to do it differently than what's required.
No, the township followed the legal requirements with respect to interviews. That's my opinion.
That's your opinion, but the handbook states differently.
I disagree with the handbook.
I guess we have a better solicitor than anybody else in this Pennsylvania State Legislature, I
No
guess.
need to be snide, sir. I told you what the
I'm not,
opinion
Mr.
was,
Brennan.
and I
I'm
advised my
stating
board,
right here,
okay?
the township gave every candidate this handbook to read. And I did do that. And the township failed to abide by this handbook rules. And I think that happened previously.
Sir, if you think it's improper, then take whatever action you think is appropriate. I've advised the board that, in my opinion, as the township solicitor, the interview process was lawful.
So I can't get a copy of that memo.
No, it's private.
But you work for us. You work as a
No, I
township
work
solicitor.
for, just a minute, sir. I work for the board. I don't work for you.
No, but you are getting paid by the township taxpayers.
That's correct.
So we, as a
Not nearly enough.
taxpayer,
Go ahead.
should be able to see what you drafted and state that you felt that they did nothing illegal. I'm not saying they did or not, but I'm saying that they did not agree or abide by the township
My
handbook by
advice
Pennsylvania.
is protected by the attorney-client privilege, sir, and I'm sure you know what that is, and I don't hand them out to the public.
Well,
Nor would I instruct the board to do so.
then I would ask the board if Mr. Brennan has given the board something to put this thing at rest, so in the future, there is no disagreement. Either the Pennsylvania handbook is rewritten based upon something that you've
I'm
said,
not going to allow my board to provide legal memoranda that I give them in confidence to you. Not going to happen.
I'll take a look at the handbook.
please, again, as taxpayer of this township and agreeing with the handbook of Pennsylvania, there should be something that states that if he feels it's illegal or if they did nothing improper, then there should be something that we should know as a taxpayer. Thank you.
Very good.
Oh, my.
Peter Mercury, President, Pickering Glen Homeowners Association, 48 homeowners I represent. We have an issue with the stormwater management and the maintenance that they have, I guess, developed.
They being the school district.
Pardon me?
They being the school district.
The school district, yes, or
Right.
PennDOT, because the plans basically didn't show a gully that they developed. Okay, so now I ask you, who is in charge of maintaining that? It's in the right of way. PennDOT came and, you know, does the school district own it and they need to maintain it? Because that is a hardship that has been brought upon us and our community.
You talking the public road or the entrances to the public road? What?
Both sides.
What are you
Do you have
saying?
any photograph of this at all?
No,
Pardon
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Uh,
Because they, Fred, they developed the stormwater management, I guess, for the school, which obviously it's this huge hill now, and
Yeah, I know what it
even
is,
down
yeah.
below, which, again, who's going to maintain it? Is Levin going to maintain it on his property? Who's going to maintain it on the PennDOT right-of-way? It's not our property.
Let me, Bill, isn't it true that a property such as, for example, on Clothier Springs Road, as an example, owner basically owns up to the cartway?
Well, it depends. In the older developments in the township, the owner used to own to the middle of the street.
Okay.
And then the deed would go to the middle of the street, and then the municipality would have a right-of-way easement that would be recorded that would show, you know, a right to cover that subdivision. Now, in more recent years, since the 80s or 90s, when subdivisions are laid out, the roads are not on the lots. They're separated out and they're approved for dedication to the township. And there's a right-of-way that is approved that's normally wider than the cartway.
Right.
So the right-of-way is used for municipal purposes, and sewers are put in it and things of that nature.
But typically the landowner in the development example knows that they have, he or she has responsibility for cutting the grass up to the curb.
Well,
No.
you know, I don't know what
No.
they know.
No.
Not really.
No.
They don't have to do that. Well, that's something that, now, you know, we're getting into
Getting into the weeds here.
homeowners association kind of thing. But
That's a
individual
great
property,
question,
I
Mr. Moss.
I recall a specific property case, excuse me for this.
Let's only talk about his issue.
Yeah.
That's a great
Okay.
question, though. He's got a great question.
Okay, go ahead, Jim.
Well, again, on Clothier Springs, there was a property where there was a question of infringement from one property owner to the other, and then there was oh, I know what it was. There was a tree down, and then it was a question of whether it was the township's responsibility or the property owner's responsibility to get this tree removed. And the tree fell right on the road and across the cartway and across the right-of-way. Okay.
I think I understand your question. The right-of-way is not ownership. The right-of-way is like an easement.
Right.
So the property owner would be the legal owner up to normally where the cartway is on the plan.
Right.
And the right-of-way would extend further into the
Right.
property owner's property.
Exactly.
In that example, it would seem to me that the property owner would have the ownership of, and, you know, to the extent you're obligated to mow your lawn, and you may not be, but to the extent there's lawn mowing, it would be the obligation of the property owner, not the township, is my opinion.
Right. And the opposite thing is true if we have 3 feet of snow and snow removal occurs for the safety of everyone and somebody's mailbox is damaged because it's in the right-of-way, it is not the township's responsibility to repair it.
But the owner, I'm assuming, is the school district, now that they
That's what I would say,
allowed
yeah.
PennDOT,
Yeah.
right? They're the
Yeah.
school district.
I
Okay,
agree.
so they should be required to take care of it.
I agree with
And
you.
also, just to let you know, the way that PennDOT did this, they came up and built a mound, and coming out of our development, you couldn't see on the left side. So they had to take more of our property so you could see to the left. That's also an issue which I hope the school district will compensate or else fix it. They took out a couple trees too, but more importantly, the big oak trees, they could not disturb those trees, and there's a big hill going down, because if they were to get any closer, they would destroy the trees and they would die. So they're right at the edge of, I don't know, property line. They may even be on our property line right now. So again, I think, see, I sent Mary Bird a letter or an email asking to talk to you about the issue, as well as the issue that who's going to make sure that Levin maintains his property. Are we going to have to wait until he lets it go into, noxious weeds again? Now, he's got a farmer that basically, he's a very nice man, and I'm glad he's doing a good job. He even sprayed on some of Levin's property, which is fantastic. He's taking care of the weeds. But I guess another issue that I have is the stormwater management, again, that is on Levin's property. Who is going to maintain that? And did the stormwater management that they created, is that going to affect the stormwater management? And the reason I bring that up is because when we were in negotiations with the school, okay?
Negotiations for what?
Negotiations because we basically were concerned about traffic improvements, stormwater management, right-of-way ownership, maintenance issues, and items that the school district needs the HOA for temporary and permanent
Same thing
drainage
you've been-
issues. But
He's going over his
But-
time.
Okay, all right.
But more importantly, these issues still exist. And now they're giving all of these.
Well, I have 2 or 3 answers for you, okay? Number one, have you gone to the Building Grounds Committee?
I've gone to those.
And have you
meetings.
mentioned the same thing you've said to us?
I guess I will tomorrow.
Okay, you should get some answers from them. Second of all, if it's on their, well, it primarily goes back to them, okay, to the school district. However, if in fact the school district made any changes like to the entrance of your development and such like that, I would be bringing that up to them, that they should be responsible then if they made those changes and such. And then any property that they have, they're gonna be responsible up to the road for that. PennDOT and owns the road, we don't. So you know that, so PennDOT would be responsible
Right,
for the road.
so you're
Yeah,
right, so.
Right, but
But in-
before you really can come to us and really bring it up to for us to make any decision, I would like to hear what the Building and Grounds Committee says to you with, and I would be just as vehement to them as you are to us. I mean,
Well,
you bring up good
yeah.
suggestions, I'm
Just
not
to-
saying that.
just
But
to let
I
you know.
think because they are 98% or 95% of the owner of this property and everything like that, you've got to bring that up to them and then come to us again.
But just to let you know, McMahon was there, and I was there with one of the school's representatives.
Sure.
Okay? And we looked at it, and they said basically that it was going to be our responsibility, which that's why we had a lawyer. And I'm glad we got one. But also, their attorney gave us this that basically says, based on our reviews, Township Pickering Glen files a trail and open space are owned by the homeowners association located outside of the ultimate right-of-way area. The maintenance of the trail and open space is the responsibility of the HOA, and the ultimate right-of-way is owned in fee simple by the township. So this is what they
Well, I
basically
don't know anything about that, okay.
said.
We
And
need clarification.
again, I'm concerned that,
The right-of-way is owned, but not the land is owned. I don't know who wrote that,
but who's
the
gonna maintain
right-of-way-
the right of way?
Well, you know, again, I don't have all the facts. I'm speculating it's the property owner's duty, but I can't be held to that until I have a chance to look into it.
Try to sum it up.
Okay, all right, well, will you please look into it?
Yes,
Because we've already found out that it's gonna be a charge of $2,000 per year to have our landscaper maintain that area, if we have to maintain it, and I don't think that's right. And it was never discussed in the negotiations about that area. If it was discussed in writing, they put basically that it would be back the way that it was before. Now, obviously, that's not gonna happen, right? It can't. They can't level it off because there's a big
Okay.
ditch there, so.
okay. I'll have a look.
Thank you
into
for
I-
sharing your thoughts.
it. Okay. Thanks, Pete. Mr. Mertz, we've had some police out there, by the way, and,
Bill Mertz, Clovis Springs Road.
and I've also been talking to Chief Fetterman about it also. And we're gonna still do some more do some more testing, and we're gonna do more testing and such out there, and have some more police out there, show their presence more, too. That's all I can say.
What about the speed bump I asked for?
No.
All I know is there were some discussions, but I wasn't involved in those discussions because they
No action
happened while
was
I was
taken.
away.
No action was taken?
Yeah.
Will you
That's
take
correct.
some action and put some speed bumps in and slow up the traffic?
I think what we did discuss, if you recall, is that it's a pretty narrow cartway, and in terms of the facilitation of vehicles going in opposite directions, plus it is a secondary road, it's not a main road, be very difficult to put a speed bump in there. And,
Why? I don't believe that. That makes no
I-
sense. Just put
Sir,
a bump in
I'm
there,
only-
slow them up.
I'm not arguing, I'm just stating what I believe to be true. Driving a car that has 146,000 miles, that's gear shift, that is low to the ground, it could be detrimental in getting on and off of the mountain to have a speed bump there. With 42 years of living where you're talking about, I do know what I'm saying. It is not hyperbole, okay?
It
I don't know what
depends,
you're saying.
it depends on how the speed bumps / humps are designed.
Say again?
It depends on how the speed bumps / humps are designed. There's gotta be a dozen different configurations of
Yes.
speed
And you
bumps.
also need to do a traffic count. There's a whole lot of other stuff that is required regarding a speed bump, plus the expense of it in a particular location.
I don't know that traffic count is needed.
Okay, well, I
think what we have
respectfully would
to,
leave it as it is.
I think what we have to do is,
Bill, one comment here, and this relates, Susan, this is also in your bailiwick, believe it or not.
Is it the sewer authority?
Yes, yes. If the sewer authority gets their job done, hopefully sooner rather than later on 252.
well, just like we've done for some
well,
other
just
roads
Hold on
here.
a second, hold on. If they get that job done, then I think you'll see less traffic coming by you.
I don't want traffic going by at 40 and 50 miles an
I
hour.
understand.
I don't care how dense the traffic is, if it's going at a reasonable speed.
Yeah.
It's a country road, like she said, it's very narrow. It is not a place for high-speed driving, and they are doing that. Now, I'd like to have the township stop them from doing that. And
But my point is they may be doing that because they're detouring.
Yes, I'm sure you're right,
They're not
Jim.
going fast because of the detour.
I don't know about that. You know, if you gotta go 2 miles out of your way, the tendency is you're gonna drive a little faster, I think.
It's been that way before that construction started. It's been a
Okay.
prevailing problem.
You're not gonna
And you
convince
can
them.
find everybody in that road saying the same thing. You can't even go across the road to get your mail without risking your life. Now,
I'm not against the concept, it's just that there's some other factors involved here that
Well-
could alleviate it.
well, okay, can I ask you when these other factors will be resolved?
Yes, well,
Well,
I have the roadmaster looking into it, and also the roadmaster looking into it, and Mr. Chief Fetterman, and we'll try to come up with some answers to try to resolve your problem as much as can.
No, he put up a hidden driveway sign, had no effect. He put up a flashing light that says personal speed, but that broke down after a day or so. And I did notice when I was staying there watching the lights, they slowed up. But when I wasn't watching the light, they were right by.
Okay,
Showing the flag doesn't do the job. You gotta have a physical, stop.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us this evening.
no.
He's not interested. Aren't you the head of this board?
Hmm?
Are you the head of the board?
Yes,
Oh, good.
I am. Damn it. Okay, any more public, I'm sorry, ma'am.
On Marianne Mers.
Uh-oh,
Bill's wife.
Uh-oh.
In front of the mic, please.
we in trouble now.
Today, I went to get my mail. I walked across the street to my mailbox. The traffic was so bad coming in both directions, I would thought I was gonna get killed. And Bill says, well, why didn't you run up the bank? Can you imagine me running up a bank
No,
to try to get away from these cars? I'll get killed trying to get up the bank.
that's right.
Now, I'm telling you, this is really a hazard. You're gonna wait until somebody gets really hurt before you do something about the traffic on this road. I work out in my front yard, and the traffic goes zoom, 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 all day long. It's not just at rush hour, it's all day long.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
If you want to come out of your driveway, oh my goodness, if you can't even get out of your driveway. If somebody backed into my driveway and wanted to turn around, they'd never get out. And another thing, within the last 2 weeks, there have been 2 18-wheelers come up our road. They get up to the top of our road. Now, if they want to turn left to get over to Country Club, an 18-wheeler with a huge cab is not going to make it.
No.
Right.
So he stops at the top of the hill, and he sees his S turn. Where the heck does he think he's going to go? Now, I'm sure the poor driver probably is going by a GPS who says, take this road. There has to be some sort of a sign put up somewhere to keep these 18-wheelers off of our little country road.
I think that's an excellent thought, thank you. I had no idea that that was being done. It doesn't, there are no shoulders or
There's
anything.
no way to get away from them,
Wow.
so I appreciate that you're trying to do something to help us. And I hope that in the near future, we can get some action. A speed bump is really what is needed.
Okay,
A sign is not going to do it. People come so fast they can't even read the sign, nor do they want to read the sign.
okay.
They have one ambition, fast down the road.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Okay,
Okay, I'm Donna Meyer, and I live next door to the Mertzes. And they're absolutely right. When I walk on that road 5 times a week, and I don't go on that road anytime when I know that the traffic is so bad that you're going to...
what time of day?
All different times of day, weekends, 5 o'clock, 4:30, 7 o'clock, and you just don't go on that road because the two-way traffic, there's not any place to jump out of the way, and they're not paying any attention to anybody who's even walking in the correct lane.
Okay,
It's just, if we only had one of those black ropes that goes across that
Sure.
counts the amount of cars, that tells you how, because if you're not there, you don't see what the traffic is like. And if you don't live there, you don't hear it all the time. But it is really and it's been that way in the last 5 years, not just because of the deep flow.
thank you very much. Thank you. Anybody else for public participation? All right, I'd like to entertain to adjourn the BOS meeting.
I so move.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I would like to move into executive session for personnel and litigation issues, please.
Okay. Can I have 2 minutes?
5 minutes.
Thank you very much.
9 o'clock we'll
All
start.
signed. Can't say you. Okay. I'd like to make a motion.
Hang on. I've opened up the Board of Supervisors meeting for Schuylkill Township. After review of the executive session, we went over personal matters and litigation issues, and I think we have a couple of motions that need to be made into the Board of Supervisors meeting.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that approval be sanctioned for the hiring of a special counsel for supervision regarding parcel C.
Legal services.
Do I hear a second?
I second the motion.
I'd like to amend that to essentially extend that to possibly future parcels. I mean, if we
No.
just,
No, but let's keep it clean, okay?
all right,
I won't accept the amendment.
I won't
All right.
either.
all right.
The motion is to approve the hiring of the special counsel selected by our Open Space Commission to oversee the process of an easement on parcel C.
I would change
Only
the
on parcel C.
selection to recommended.
Okay,
The word selection from selection to recommended.
fine. Got that, Madeline?
That's fine, pursuant to the terms of her offer letter. It's just in
That's the
terms.
one for 71,000.
Oh, okay.
No, the 175.
Okay,
How much?
so I made a motion and
I'll
I
second.
and Sue
Susan
seconded.
seconded it.
Okay. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I oppose. I don't agree with the amount of money we're paying for it, and I think we could do it a lot cheaper. So I think that I'm not going to vote for it.
Okay.
Okay? And that's, I have to give a reason since I'm not doing it. Okay? So it's passed. 4-1. Okay, second motion?
A second motion is that we proceed with the conservation easement process regarding parcel C.
Okay, have a second to that?
Too broad-based?
It's okay, I would add, provided that the township is not bound until it signs a conservation easement that is satisfactory to it.
I'd like my motion to include the suggestion made by our council.
Okay.
What about just?
We need a second.
What about
I know.
simplifying it, just to say, we accept the proposal from National Lands Trust to conduct a conservation
That
easement?
might
Not
be enough,
yet.
but there's a little ambiguity there in terms of whether that commits you to move forward.
Yeah, I agree.
Too
A
far
lot of
ahead the
ambiguity.
I agree.
I do too.
Well, the motion is authorizing the signature on the document, because it has to be signed and sent back.
All right.
Okay, the motion's been made, it's been seconded.
Who seconded?
I second the motion.
Okay.
Sue.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? I oppose it. I don't agree with National Lands Trust. I don't trust them. I don't think they give the right amounts of money, and they overcharge us. And so I'm going to abstain, or not abstain, I'm going to not vote for it.
Right, and
Okay.
I would like to make a public suggestion to our Open Space Commission to make sure they confer with Gilmore and Associates vis-à-vis the survey that was completed by them regarding this, the value of, and the cost of this easement, okay?
Well, I would also like to recommend to the board that we consider the Brennan Association and Associates to do our legal processes if he can do it. And I think we can do it a lot cheaper and
Yeah,
such.
I would second
and
that
such like
motion.
that.
But I think at this point, Fred.
This isn't a motion. I'm just suggesting,
I think for
recommending
further
to the
parcels.
board.
For
I haven't.
future.
I'm not doing a motion.
Okay,
All right, I take a motion to adjourn the Board of Supervisors meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, second?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.